Hi, this is Bill Ryan here from Project Avalon, and what you're about to hear is an impromptu, unplanned dinner table conversation between David Icke and Jordan Maxwell. It was recorded on the 18th of May, 2010, and they are regaling each other with researchers' stories of reptilian activity on planet Earth. It's important because, as many of you will know, David Icke really was the first to break this very uncomfortable and challenging research ground in his book, The Biggest Secret. But many other researchers, Jordan Maxwell among them, have learned that this material seems to be true. They have their own accounts. They have their own testimony from independent witnesses. There's something here that is extremely important to understand. And the information is alarming. It's entertaining, of course, for reasons of its own. But behind the entertainment and the interesting stories lies an extremely dark agenda that, in my personal belief, it is our responsibility to look at carefully and to understand as best we can what may be happening here.
I was doing an interview in Los Angeles on a radio show in Las Vegas. They had called me. I was doing a 2-hour interview with them. And in the process, I just in passing mentioned the reptilian gods and the reptilian aliens. And after the program, I got a phone call from a guy who I found out later was a very wealthy man who, as I said, owned a company that buys and sells hotels and big stuff.
Right.
And he called and he said, Jordan, we were listening to you this morning in the office. And he said, I got to tell you something. He said, I have 5 men that work for me in my office. We're all Christians and we all go to the same church. And he said, once a year, I take all 5 families in my home and we go on vacation together, always. And he says, last year, and this was like in '89 when this happened. He said, last year, we all took off to do camping in Colorado. And he said, one morning we broke camp and we walked up the top of a large hill and looked down into the valley. And he said, in the valley there was a circle that had been cleared away. A round area circle had been cleared away. And there was a circle of people in robes, and they're all holding hands, swaying back and forth like some sort of a chant. And there was one person in the middle. And he said, when we're standing there watching this, we were startled to see people out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Out here in the middle of nowhere, they're doing a ritual, right? And he said, all of a sudden, it popped in the center, another person popped up, but much bigger than everybody else. And he said, when that thing popped in, it pointed up at us, and all the singing stopped, everything stopped, and everyone turned, pointed up at us. And he said, well, we were up on the top of the mountain, so we just going to get out of there. He said, we turned, and it was too late. That thing that was in the circle was behind them. He said that was at least 7.5 to 8 foot high.
Yes, it's a classic.
Huh?
It's a classic.
Yeah, and he said the thing was 7.5 to 8 foot high, reptile, and he says, and we were all paralyzed. Couldn't move, even the children couldn't move, nobody could move. And he said, and this thing looked at all of us, and finally it looked at the men, and he said, when it was looking at us, we knew what it was thinking. It was basically saying, I'm going to let you go this time, but you better get out of here because you've interrupted something. And he says, and the thing walked away, and the people were watching it, and it went, it's gone.
Classic.
And he says, and the moment it took off, everyone started screaming because now they come back. Now they've got their faculties back. And he said the children were screaming, the women were yelling and crying. And he said, and we ran, all of us, back to our cars and drove home, and that's it. And he said, we're all Christians in a church. And when we heard you talking about reptile aliens, I got news for you. We know of at least one that's on the Earth for real sure, because we saw it, all of us, because these things are interdimensional.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They can pop in at any time
Exactly.
they want.
Not that guards on the corners are going to make any difference if the thing suddenly materialises in the walk-in closet, you know.
That's right.
That's the way they think, though, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
way they think. I've got to have some guns. That'll sort them.
Not